Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BMW Blog Podcast. This is episode 68, and today I'm joined with Horatiu and James, and we're going to kind of break down some of the things that have been happening the past few weeks. I know we've taken a bit of a break for the past few weeks, but that's just only because we've been crazy busy with so many things that we're going to talk to you about today. Horatiu was in Italy for the Concorso d'Eleganza, or however you pronounce that.
Concorso d'Eleganza.
Yeah, I should know how to pronounce that because I'm Italian, but anyway, he was there doing, seeing some of the most amazing things in the world. So we're going to hear about that. So, hey guys, what's up?
Yo, good to be here.
Hey, Nico, good to see you. Yeah, I mean, that was a quick intro, but I guess we can tease a little bit more. So I'm going to share my thoughts on the few cars that I drove and saw, including Germany, Austria, and also at Villa d'Este. And I guess Nico's going to talk also about his i4 M50 drive, which should be pretty good. And then James is just going to give us his comments on some of the new cars that recently launched.
Yeah, just lusting over them.
All right, so maybe I can kick it off then. So maybe let me start with my trip. A couple of weeks in Europe. I started off in Germany, in Berlin, to drive the iX M60. So that's the top of the line iX model, basically. And it was an interesting drive, basically, because it's really the first, well, actually maybe not the second M-tuned car. It's a crazy fast car. I published a review on that. In a way, it does feel like the iX xDrive 50 in normal driving, but of course, if you have the space to push the car, like on the Autobahn, you can really feel that massive power. I mean, that's one of the beauty about driving in Germany. You can really floor that pedal, and the car is fast. But very interesting car. A little bit more tuned up than the iX50. Clearly a lot more power with the boost. I think over 600 horsepower and about 1100 newton meters of torque with the boost, which is pretty neck snapping. But overall, I would say I can keep it short on this one. It is not a full M car. It doesn't want it to be a full M car, and it's really for the people that just want to buy a more powerful iX, or they just really want to have the best iX as far as power. Overall, I still think the 40 and the 50 are really great buys, and you're only buying the M60 if you need that power. It doesn't really look any different. It's got some of the black badges all around, and it's got a little bit of bronze or titanium trim around it, but overall it just really looks like an iX50 with the M Sport package. Inside there is no differentiation either. So people ask me, why would I buy the iX M60? Really, if you have the money, and money is no object, just buy it. I mean, it gets similar range and just gives you a lot more power, and you just have a different car than other people. But I still think the 50 model will be probably the one that will sell the most when it comes to iX.
I wanted to ask you about the ride, because the 50 is like beautiful. Like it rides incredibly well.
Yeah.
So does the 60 ride similar, or does it sacrifice a little bit of that for performance?
So it's funny you bring that up, because we had an interesting experience with the guy that I was riding from the drive, and basically we're on really bad surfaces at some point. I mean, like really, really bad. It was a stretch of road which probably you don't see too often, and the ride was a little bit harsh on those. I mean, clearly we're on performance tires and all of that. It just felt a lot bouncier than I want it to be. So maybe if you're not on great surfaces, you will feel a lot sportier and bouncier, and some people might like that, some others might not. But driving overall on the Autobahn, and especially through Berlin on really smooth surfaces, it just felt a little bit sportier than the iX50. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they said that with the iX50 and the 40, of course, they started their driving modes. The engineers started their driving modes from comfort and working their way up to sport. Where on this one, they said that they actually started from sport and kind of went down to comfort. So their goal was really, let's make it as sporty as possible, and then kind of work our way down to the more comfortable mode. So you can feel that character. It's got a little bit more, suspension tune in there, and the steering, it's a little bit more tuned up. Again, I mean, if you go into the comfort mode, it's probably going to feel just the same as the iX50, really. But in the sport mode, it's quite bouncy. And once again, some people might like it, others might not. But overall, it's still a very smooth ride, honestly. And driving through the city just feels so easy to drive. It's a big car, and Berlin, it's not a It's not a city with really big streets or wide streets, so it's kind of tricky. But honestly, it just felt kind of effortless to drive it. So I'm still impressed by the iX. The fact that it's a bespoke platform and it just rides quite nicely, actually, compared to, let's say, like an X5, for example.
Pretty surprised that the range is roughly the same. You were saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit lower. I guess it's really not that much lower. I don't remember at the top of my head, maybe 280 something with, I mean, it's all based on wheel options and tire options too. So I don't recall exactly. Yeah. They're like three different.
Weight's the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But really, it's got the same battery pack. It's using that extra power only when you really need it. So the power consumption, it's always going to be based on that. Of course, if you keep accelerating and doing those quick bursts of speed, you're going to, burn through that energy a lot quicker. But there is not a significant range. Of course, we didn't do a driving test range either, especially because we're in Autobahn going about 230 kilometers per hour. So that is not normal driving, really. So any range test that we would have done, it would have not been accurate. I did record the kilowatts per miles, and I think it was quite bad compared to other EVs. But I would say mostly because we're really pushing the car. And even on normal roads, we're pushing the car quite a bit. So we'll have to get a car like Nico had the iX50 and really do a normal driving test to get the efficiency down.
Yeah, it's tough to do a range test even like when you have it. It's like unless you have like really solid conditions, like good weather, a route where you can kind of control how fast you go rather than like one that's going to throw traffic in your face and stuff like that. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So I don't envy like the publications that do like intense range tests. I think the best way to just kind of determine the overall like range is just go by its efficiency. Like how many miles per kilowatt hour you get. Like that's just like the perfect way to do it. And you see some like EV guys do that too. And the 50 netted me like 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty good. I mean, it's okay. But when you have like a 100 kilowatt hour battery, that's 280 miles. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like then the EPA rating, it's quite accurate actually. So I think for the first time, actually not for the first time, but on the i3, I always felt like the EPA rating was a little too generous versus the real life. Where on this one, it just feels like it's just right. So yeah, so that was the my M60. I mean, honestly. It is not a full M car, like I said, so I'm just waiting for the first M electric car to really see what they can do. I mean, this is just really a normal electric crossover and a little bit tuned up.
Do you know what the first electric M is going to be?
I don't even know. Actually, BMW probably knows. By now, they're probably deep into the next project, but I'm assuming it will be based on the cycle. It has to be the new M3 and M4 because that will be the one that gets renewed first. So M2 comes out next year, so that's not going to be the first one. Clearly the M5 comes out next year, so that's not going to be also the first one. And then the M3 M4, they're having their facelift next year, which means that they're going to be due for a refresh by 2027, probably 26, 27. Of course, they can push back a little bit the production. They're doing that already with the 3 Series. But I think there's still a lot of discussions around the 3 Series also. Do we want to go fully electric in 27? Because now they push back apparently the production. It's not been confirmed by BMW, but we've seen some of the rumors that they push it back by a couple of years, which gives them time to really decide if the entire range of 3 Series will be fully electric, which in that case, or in any case, honestly, I think the M3 and M4 will be the first.
I think that makes sense, right? I'm no automotive business expert, but it just makes sense to me for the M3 to be electric because if it's not, then you have another 6-year product cycle of it not being electric, and you're almost certainly going to have competitors that come out in that space that are all electric.
Yeah,
and then it would be behind in the times in like 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like it just makes sense for it to be all electric, and plus that just would be kind of kick ass, right? Like an all electric M3, I think that'd be cool.
There might be a crazy option on the table because the next X3 actually that comes out in 25. Based on what I know, again, not confirmed by BMW because they never confirm anything ahead of time. But it's going to be a platform that's going to be, so basically they will have two different platforms. They'll have an X3 on the G platform, which is the CLAR, the rear wheel drive architecture, and they're going to have an X3 all electric on the new NK platform. So which means that you'll have two different models and two different platforms, same name, X3. So basically they could go down that route also with the M3 and M4 and the 3 Series, say, hey, we're going to still building maybe a plug-in hybrid M3 and M4. I mean, they can do that. They have the tech clearly. And they can build an all-electric M3, M4, and then they do the full switch in whatever 2034 or whatever 2033, whenever that next change comes. But honestly, I don't know. That's just pure speculation right now, and I don't even know if BMW is really fully decided on that. But it's interesting. I mean, I don't envy them. I don't envy the engineers, the product managers, the executives. I mean, you need to make that decision, and some of the models are stuck in a cycle where, like the X3, you have to go with both. And someone asked me, so why did I have to go with the X3 on both? Because when the decision was made on the X3, probably it was a couple of years back, if not more. So by that time they were on the G platform, and then they announced the shift to the new class, last year. So now, of course, they need to build one on that, platform also. So I think if the X3 would have been starting this year as far as project, they would have been doing just all electric. But it's all about timing, honestly, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. The same reason why, I'm going a little bit off tangent here, but same thing as the M4 CSL comes with the iDrive 7 and the normal screen, but the M3 Touring and all the other, facelift M3 and M4 come with a big screen. And people are like, why? Well, because that was the cycle, the production for the M4 CSL starts this summer in June, July, where the other one starts towards the end of the year. So clearly, because of a gap of a few months, they had no choice but to go with that smaller screen, which some people might actually like that. So
also, I don't think anyone's going to care. It's a CSL.
Yeah,
buying it for the tech.
I'd be surprised.
Probably have no screens, and people would be like, "Yeah, it's got no screens because it's so hardcore."
Yeah.
Also, people would be like, "Yes, thank you, no screens. It's a CSL. Like, I don't care."
So let me talk about the CSL then, because we're on that topic.
Wireless CarPlay.
Yeah, exactly. Since we're on the CSL, let me talk about that. I was going to leave it a little bit, towards the end, but so basically the M4 CSL saw it at Villa d'Este. Concorso d'Eleganza. I mean,
that's the pronunciation I was looking for.
Concorso d'Eleganza. That's really the reason why I actually went there, because I was there last fall, and it was just 6 months after that or 7 months after that. But the reason, for my trip there was really the M4 CSL. I really wanted to see it in real life. I feel like it was an important car, and one that who knows if we'll ever gonna see again in that format, or probably not. So quite impressive in real life as far as the design, because they've added quite a few things to it. I do like the Kine grill a lot better than on the normal M3 and M4, honestly. I feel like it's got more of a racing look, and it just kind of tones down that strange Kine that you see on the normal cars. Of course, it's still there, and some people still hate it. But I feel like the overall carbon fiber bits they've added, they're quite nice actually. They don't feel like they were overly done. So it doesn't feel like one of those like a track car that it's meant to be, too much than it should be. And of course the interior, it's kind of nice with the lack of rear bench, and just a little bit more simplified. But I guess one thing that they're really proud about that car, it's really the weight loss, because losing 200 pounds, 100 and something kilos, from the one they were telling me, it sounds a lot harder than it actually is. So in order to do that, they've done a bunch of things, aside from removing things and all of that. They removed some insulation, I think, some other things that, like anything, they would shave another kilo or 500 grams basically. And from a engineering perspective, they were extremely proud of that more than anything else, really. But the car, it's probably sold out, honestly. I feel like in the US, it's definitely sold out, because I've had a few people reaching out to me if I can connect them with a dealer with BMW to buy some, and I'm like, I can't. No, it doesn't work that way. And
I know I even pitched giving BMW one of my kidneys, and they didn't go for it.
No, it's all dealer-based allocation. Nobody can really jump that line. And there was a guy that I know that wants to buy 3 of them. like literally wants to buy 3 of them, and he
One
can
in,
even
one in every single color, I assume.
probably. I mean, that will make sense, right? But as Nico,
hers and his.
yeah, as Nico reported, they're really less than 1 per dealer, basically.
I gotta say that messed me up big time. That messed me up big time. Like I saw the article and I read it, and going back, this is a deep cut to our previous episode where like the Daytona is not that of a fantastic watch, but the fact that it's so rare and you can't get your hands on it. Like Nico's article is like, yeah, there's only one, and they have to be M certified dealerships, and they'll maybe get one, and then like if there's some left over, maybe other dealerships will get it. And then I immediately was like, I need it in my life.
Yeah, I guess scarcity, creates that hype. But honestly, the comments that we've seen, and I'm not sure if you've seen that, Nico, too. People were comparing the price point with the 911 GT3, and clearly, if you put the cars, side by side, maybe on track, maybe the GT3 it's the better car. I haven't driven one, honestly, so I can't really give my unbiased thoughts on that. But based on what I've read and all the things that I know about the 911 GT3, it might be the superior car when it comes to track performance. But then again, I guess people that are buying the M4 CSL, they're not looking at the 911 GT3 as the CSL as a replacement to that. They probably just want to buy a top of the line BMW M4, and that's why they're going for it.
I also think they're slightly different cars. I mean,
yeah, true.
Like the M4 CSL is the ultimate 4 Series, right? Like it starts its life as a 4 Series, and so it is. Excuse me. It is brutal. Like it's crazy, powerful, 550 horsepower, rear-wheel drive. Like it's brutal, right? And whoever's driven the M4 knows how violent that thing is. I always go back to Johnny Lieberman's quote that it's a 5-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. Like it is just. Like it's the perfect way to describe it because it's just monstrous. So adding all that power, or the extra power, and dropping weight, it's going to be crazy. Whereas the GT3 is more of a scalpel. It's very sharp, and it's got a naturally aspirated engine. It's just totally different. You get it with a manual. It's like totally different cars. The only thing I think that really is going to skew, I think maybe some customers to the GT3 is the fact that it's not limited. Like you can just go get a GT3. I mean, yes, allocation is difficult.
2 years wait time from what I heard.
Debatable again,
that will get better though. That will get better as production goes on, but still, even 2-year wait time, you can get one.
Yeah.
The CSLs, it's numbered. It's over. They're probably already bought and paid for. So, like you said, the U.S. allocation is probably done. And if you want one, you're gonna have to get on the used market because like someone's gonna get 3 and then put 2 up on Bring a Trailer in 6 months and sell it for 40% profit. So if you want one used, it's going to be a fortune. So the GT3, at least you can get one eventually. That's the only thing I think that's going to I think you're right. I don't think customers are going to cross shop it, but
I don't see it. Yeah, I mean, honestly,
customers might be like, "Well, I can get a GT3, so
yeah, exactly.
Just get one of those."
There's a case to be made for like GT Porsches though. I mean, they also suffer somewhat that like Rolex stigma where it's like. You can get one. Yes, it's not limited. You can buy one once production comes up. However, dealerships are still not going to be like stocking them hand over fist. So there's still a very much that preferred premier customer that has already purchased a Porsche or 2 that will be like, oh, yep, express pass to the front of the line. Yeah, you totally can get a GT3. Absolutely. Whereas I've never felt that with BMW. Like I've never experienced that in my life. Where there's any sort of like gating or line other than like true proper scarcity where like you were slow on the uptake and you can't get one anymore just because you were slow, not you haven't purchased from us before, you're not like gonna be chauffeured to the front of the line because you're a preferred customer of sorts.
Right.
That's my experience.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm just happy that they made an M4 CSL. To be honest, I mean, it's cool that they made one. It's cool that they revived that name, even though the name doesn't mean lightweight anymore, really. But it's just such an iconic name, and just the fact that I'm actually like in a way proud of them, despite some of the products like the XM, which actually it's just a pretty interesting one because I drove the car and I can talk about that a little bit, and also I saw the car actually too, so I might have changed my opinion a little bit on it, but. I'm just proud of them because they're building some cars right now that they know they might not be able to build in the future. So the fact that they're doing the M4 CSL, they're doing the M3 Touring, I can't wait to see what they're doing on the M2 platform, also. So to me, that's actually quite cool. I mean, I guess they realize that, combustion powered cars, sports cars might be on their way out in the future. So now they said, let's just build some really cool cars than before we might have been able to, get them approved by the board, basically. So in a way, I'm just happy that they're doing the M4 CSL. I'm happy that it's limited. It's gonna just, continue the CSL legacy as being limited and quite unique. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about another car. It's one I totally forgot about when we were introing and kind of brainstorming here. But it's because it's related to the CSL, the 3.0 CSL, the revival of the 3.0
So
CSL.
I guess in a way, we broke the story after somebody else wrote a similar story, but I had to correct a few things because I've known about the car for a little bit. I mean, we already said it in the article, and I can kind of reiterate what I talked about. Apparently, it's a coach-built, custom-built car by BMW. It is based on the M4 CSL platform, basically. I don't know what the design looks like. Apparently, it's got some of the homage, lines and all of that. I expect a kind of 3.0 CSL vibe there, just more modern, basically. So I would say that the homage cars probably give a good indication. Same engine, probably more tuned up. Actually, we wrote it's going to be making a little bit more power.
Exclusively a manual.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right.
Which is that's what you were just saying before. That's what made me think of it was you said you were proud of BMW for making the M4 CSL. I'm kind of proud that they're making the 3.0 CSL because it's just stupid at this point, right? It's a monstrously powerful car with a coach-built body, only a manual transmission and rear-wheel drive. It's good. It's no one's doing that right now. The only thing is no one's going to be able to get it because it's going to be hyper limited and obscenely expensive.
Yeah, I mean they're saying 50 units, I guess. 50 units, and the price
$600,000 or something.
It's actually the price. From what I've heard, I mean, again, not something confirmed by BMW, but it's not been really set in stone. So there was a wider range that went from 500K to 700 and something $1,000, basically. But they're only 50 units. I don't think they'll have a problem selling them just because they're 50 units. No. In a car, or any object, it's only worth what you're willing to pay for. So if you were selling for $1 million, they might have sold for $1 million, for $2 million. I guess people that buy that car, they're not gonna look at it for $500,000 or more, I can buy this Ferrari or that Lambo. They're not looking at it that way, basically.
No.
They just want something very unique. So.
I mean, look at Gordon Murray, right?
Yeah.
So the T50, Gordon Murray T50. I think they only made something similar, 50, or they're making something like that. But they're $2-3 million, and they were sold out before he even showed the first sketch.
Yeah.
If rich people want dumb, expensive things, they're gonna get dumb, expensive things. They don't care.
There's something to be said about Gordon Murray though as well. His name carries a lot of weight.
Yes.
So really, he could.
But every Ferrari and Lamborghini that does the same are also sold out. When Ferrari's we're going to make $1 million, whatever, it's gone, and the allocation's up in 15 minutes.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's kind of what we know so far. I mean, it's coach built by BMW, so basically, it's not on the.
Oh, they're building.
Yeah, they are building.
They
are doing a coach build.
They were outsourcing it.
That's what I thought initially, but no, they are doing the coach build. But it's by coach build, they mean that it's not built on the production line. It's kind of like off, the production line, so it doesn't interfere with anything else, and it's a lot more custom work.
That's my dream. I was hoping and praying to the car gods that they rehired Giugiaro to do it, just like they did with the M1.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they got the expertise in house. Look at the Rolls-Royce coach build cars. I'm sure they got the expertise in house.
I'm sure, but it just would have been very poetic and awesome to bring Giugiaro back into the mix for one last go.
Yeah, I mean, I actually listened to a panel with him. He was on the same panel with Johan Nerpach, the M founder, and Van Miel and Van Hooydonk. Yeah. Johan Nerpach. Yeah, so it was an interesting panel with those guys. But yeah, so aside from that, yeah, so the car, yeah, I guess we'll see it this year, towards the end of the year. I guess that will be the icing on the cake as far as the 50 years of M celebrations. And I'm really excited to see what they do with the design and all of that. I'm sure people will say, hey, it's not worth the money, and I totally expect that, from a lot of people. But then again, it's like anything that's limited, watches, sneakers, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if you see sneakers worth $50,000 or $100,000, so why would not the car be worth $750,000 basically?
Yeah, I mean, like with a car like that too, value is dumb. Like there is no value to it. It's just like people are paying what they want to pay for.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
BMW can charge whatever they want.
Yeah.
People are gonna, like in terms of like dollars and cents and like power and stuff. Of course, it's not worth it, but it's a limited run thing. Who cares?
I mean,
like,
it's the same thing with Rolls-Royce. Why would you pay $30 million for a coach-built Rolls-Royce, right? When you can buy probably 30 Rolls-Royces, like really nicely.
Literally buy like 30
Phantoms.
like
Not by like 30 Phantoms, really customized, like bespoke to the
like
T. I mean,
crazy kick-ass Phantoms.
Exactly. So then again,
You could open up your own,
or you could buy 20 Phantoms and like a mansion on Lake Como.
Yeah. So now since
and
we're
rent out the Phantoms
Exactly.
for special events
Right.
that are held at your mansion. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Or
So-
one car.
so
or,
you can
or one boat tail that will probably never be driven ever.
So there is one actually. So okay, so hold on. 'Cause now we're going off track here on
Yeah, I'm
many
getting
different
off the
ways.
rails.
Off
Getting
the rails quite a
here.
bit. But then again, so that was the parallel, right? So if people are paying $30 million for a Rolls-Royce, there are plenty of people that have enough money to pay $700,000 or $500,000, whatever that car is going to be, priced at, because that money, it's not a lot to them, and they can own one of 50 basically. And owning one of 50, that's what carries the price tag, not anything
It's gonna be a
else.
good investment.
It-
Like
it could
it's gonna
be.
worth
I mean,
more than that in a few years, right?
Same thing with the coach-built Rolls-Royces. I'm pretty sure that down the line they're going to be worth a lot more than $30 million, because I just learned that the process of getting a coach-built Rolls-Royce, it's actually quite complicated. It's like you don't go to Rolls-Royce; they come to you. So Rolls-Royce goes to
Really?
multiple customers and then say, hey, we're thinking about giving you the option to do a coach-built, boat tail, but tell me about your ideas and things, that you might want to do with the car. So they're basically, like, in a way, interviewing potential customers, and they're
To
picking
give them $30
to give them
million.
exactly. So, and then this is the reason.
I have a proposition for you. You give me $30 million.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes
We'll
sense
make
because
you a car.
they want each car to have a very unique story, like the Pearl car, the last one with the Pearl. I mean, the guy was into pearls apparently, and a lot of things came from that. And there was a 4-year process. I mean, we're talking 4 years. I mean, to go
Yeah.
back and forth to make sure that you nail all the fine details. So and then the last car, I just found out also the third boat tail, the owner doesn't even want to say who it is, or he doesn't even want to show the car. So basically, we'll never see the third Rolls-Royce Boat Tail.
So you're saying that like the third boat tail will never be shown to anyone ever?
Yeah, so basically the third Boat Tail will never be shown. I mean, that's the...
Did they say who bought the first two?
They
I don't think
they didn't. No, they don't want to disclose that either. They did not even disclose the price. The media
Yeah.
and whatever the experts came up with, the 27, 30 million, whatever price is, but they really didn't disclose. I honestly don't know. I mean, if someone probably heard it somewhere and they came up with that
Did they
number.
disclose the first price though?
No,
'Cause
no,
the
they've never
first one was-
disclosed any of that. I asked the question also.
So what? Oh. So
I guess someone
are
knows.
The rumors, are the rumors of the first one being Jay-Z and Beyonce?
No. Told specifically, it's definitely not them. So, second car, the owner actually picked it up at Villa d'Este and drove it. He was there at Villa d'Este and picked up the car, and he actually drove the car home, which was
Oh,
that was really cool. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's brave.
That's a
Straight
boss
baller
move,
right there.
too.
That's
That's a boss ass
So-
move. Like, hey guys, this is my crazy, ridiculous thing that you're all here to see. Goodbye.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take it from you now.
Yeah,
I don't want any of the hors d'oeuvres or any drinks. What's up? Hey, okay, bye.
Get your greasy fingers off
Hey,
my car. Goodbye.
I mean, honestly, just for him to leave the car there for people to touch it, and get close to it, I'm like,
bold.
that is brave. And then again, that shows right there are a lot of people with a lot of money, and 30 million might not mean a lot to them. So if you're talking about the BMW car being expensive to who? To us? Yes. to a lot of people or other rich people? Probably not. It's probably.
I mean, 28 million is a lot of effort.
No, I was talking about the BMW one. It's priced at whatever.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, okay.
Could be change for a lot of people. So
I honestly think that this like custom coach building thing will just only explode and get bigger and bigger in the future as we transition into a world that's all electric, and somebody will want an internal combustion engine with a manual transmission that has a specific sort of design language. I'm sure companies will cater to these custom orders, and we will see like cyclical things like coach building will become more, I won't say mainstream, but more common for manufacturers that can actually provide the like logistical and like manual labor aspect of building something that someone is willing to pay, Horatio, to your point, as much as you're asking, because they
Do you
have
mean
the money.
for new EVs?
No, I mean for what will eventually be considered ancient technology, like the internal combustion engine, right?
Oh, okay.
Like,
So like,
fast forward 20 years from now, you'll have not just BMW doing like custom coach building, but like you'll see other manufacturers hark to the days of yore where yes, we do coach building using an internal combustion engine, and this like the homage and stuff like it wouldn't surprise me if this was will become a product within companies' portfolios as a thing that they do for additional income and additional revenue to like appease the customer that money is no object, like it doesn't matter.
yeah, I have a piece actually on that going live soon. I just didn't have a chance to come to the interview, but I did a roundtable with Adrian van Hooydonk, and I asked him, I think he knew that I know, and I knew that he's not going to really respond to the question, fully. But I asked him, what's the future looking like when it comes to coach building at BMW, and I said based on Rolls-Royce, cars. But clearly he knew that I was hinting at the 3.0 CSL, and he did give the answer that, they're looking into coach building a lot more than before, something along those lines, and then it's interesting to them, and they're exploring that. So, that's pretty good, answer from him to kind of tease us that they're definitely looking into that. And he did mention one thing, prior to that, and relate to another question, something along the lines that the problem is that it's the homologation, right? And that's why the 3.0 CSL is not really homologated like in the US. It gets expensive to do it globally. And he said that, for cars that if they make like one off, basically, it will still cost them the same way that it will cost them to homologate, 3 million, 3 series basically. So that's one of the major obstacles, really, is the homologation price when it comes to safety, crash regulations, and all of that for coach building. So
sure, but I mean, once you're at the table, if you're paying $1 million for a car, or I don't know, $5 million for a car, if you're at the table and you're spending that kind of coin, that cost could be in theory passed along to the customer, right?
Sure.
To the person that's willing to pay that kind of, again, to us, ridiculous money, but again, to them might be a drop in the bucket. So homologating one car or 50 or 100, that could be totally passed down. And it is way more, at least in my mind, way more acceptable to pass that cost down to the customer if you're sort of straying outside of the norm and going, this is absolutely ridiculous, and therefore all the figures that we will be discussing today are ridiculous, such as homologation costs. And good sir, good ma'am, it's going to cost you this much, but you can have a one-off whatever, right?
So I wouldn't be
I also
surprised if that's
wonder-
baked into the price of the 3.0 CSL. I'm pretty sure a lot of the cost is baked in.
I also wonder in the future, and I'd love to ask like an Adrian van Hooydonk or anyone, any designer about this, but in the future with EVs, due to the less hard points of like the structure that is required, or like less, let me rephrase that, less fixed hard points, because there's no engine, there's no gearbox, there's none of those things that kind of need to be worked around. And I think it's easier for car companies to design cars. I wonder if this like kind of bespoke more coach built EVs might pop up in the future because of the freer requirements engineers and designers have with EV chassis. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like there's less to work around, so there may be more room to create more unique kind of one-off designs with EVs. So I wonder if coach building might kind of come back a little bit, or at least more heavily customized designs or bespoke designs.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he talked about that, he didn't say combustion engine or anything like that. So clearly they're looking more towards electrification. So my personal opinion is that they're really talking about coach building into the future with electric cars more than anything else, not necessarily combustion powered. I mean, they're always thinking at least 5-10 years down the line. We're always thinking of next year, but by now they're into designing cars for 2026, 27, right? So I mean, way ahead of time. So I'm sure they're thinking about that. And I just learned right now, I didn't even realize that they have over 1,000 designers globally or something like that. Like insane amount of people that work in design, really. Yeah. So they're always, and he did mention in that panel actually that there are always a lot of different projects that they do in parallel, you know, and things that they look at. So I'm sure a lot of projects, they never come to fruition, but they explore things probably constantly when it comes to design, tech, and all of that. So a lot of the things we never find out about, but no doubt about it, they're looking at everything and trying everything. Yeah. All right. So all right, so that was that. We went a little bit longer on that, but let me talk about the XM quickly before I end with the X1, and then I let you guys take over. But so I drove the XM, right? So I did my review also. Let me reiterate that quickly as well. To me, it feels like an X5M competition plus. I would say it's a very capable car. It is extremely fast. I wouldn't say it's, you know, night and day different than the X5M. That's why I call it an X5 competition plus. It does have a lot of few unique features when it comes to the suspension, some other things. So it's definitely an interesting car when it comes to that. Then again, people that have money, they might not even care, you know, that there is an X5M for sale, and they might just go for the XM because it's different and it costs a lot more. I saw the design. I can't really talk about it much because it's kind of like on the embargo, but I can say this, that the exterior design, it is close to the concept car that we've seen, but they've done a few subtle changes in the back that I like a lot more than on the concept, and it looks a lot cleaner. So it actually looked impressive in real life, and that was the same feedback that I got from a few people that were at Villa d'Este. They saw the car. Actually, a few hundred people saw the car there. It was like an open close room basically, so anyone can actually walk up there, sign up, and go see the car. And surprisingly, the feedback was positive because I was not sold on the idea of the XM, but after people's feedback, they were like kind of excited about the car. And then also the journalists that I was on the trip with, Car and Drive, Motor Trend, The Drive, Motor One, CNET, everybody raved about the XM's driving experience. I guess I was the only one that wasn't overly excited about it. I mean, I liked it, but I wasn't like over the moon like they were. So clearly it left some really good impressions on some journalists, and I think it will be okay. It's not going to be a high volume selling model, but I feel like if they need to sell a certain amount of cars, they should be able to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an impressive car. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, plug-in hybrid V8.
It's fast.
700 horsepower or whatever. You know, it's
fast.
Monstrous.
Sounds great. That new engine, it's awesome. The S68. Sure. That engine is really nice. I mean,
the first one, I haven't driven the S68 yet.
Yeah, I drove it twice now, and it's really nice, especially with a plug-in hybrid. And keep in mind, I only drove the 650 horsepower one. So I can only imagine a 751 what he can do. I mean, this one was fast. That will be insanely fast, and it sounds great. That V8 sounds really nice. They've done, like, people were complaining about the exhaust pipes arrangement and all of that, but it was done actually to be functional more than form, and they've done enough changes underneath to the exhaust system that it actually sounds better than on the X5M. So I can say that for sure.
It just bothers me that it exists because not that it exists, but that it exists and what's behind you on your computer screen doesn't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's
what bothers me.
Yeah.
Because when BMW hinted like we're gonna make a bespoke M car, it's gonna be from the ground up M. Everyone thought it was gonna be that.
Yeah.
And the Vision M next, and now we get a big SUV, and it's like, ugh, really?
Yeah. So
I get it. I get one. I get it.
Yeah.
That's just still disappointing.
Subverting expectations is a thing.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really big now.
So we'll see. Honestly, we'll see when it comes out what people really think after they see the final car, because it's a lot more toned down when it comes to the exterior design, and I would say a lot more pleasant than the concept. So I'm curious to see what people say about this, but it's still, I think the unveil is still a long way to go. I think September or something like that, or October. So yeah, so that was that. And then to end my trip, I did film the iX1 and actually the 3 Series Facelift too. So let me do both because it was the same kind of setup. iX1, honestly, the moment that I walked into that studio, I know that studio really well. And the moment you walk in, you can just see the car in front of you, like they're unveiled, they're there, and you're like, oh, wow. So my first impression was like, this is a really good looking car. And it's been a while since I was like, yeah, this is really cool versus, yeah, it's going to grow on me. Let me take another close look. So this one was like, yeah, this is actually really, really cool. So it gave me the X3 vibes immediately, more of a crossover than the quirky looks of the X1 that we see today. It's definitely got a nicer shape in the back. The front, it's bold, but it's not overly done with the super huge kidney grills and all of that. It's got a shark nose, which we haven't seen in a while, right? We've seen usually, slanty cut it the other way or very upright, but this one's kind of slanted forward just a little bit. So here's that.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I want to go back and look at it now.
If you look at the side on some of the videos that I put up, you will see that it's got a little shark nose, and they even mentioned that basically. And it looks really good. The M Sport package looks great. Honestly, again, not overly done. And of course, the iX1, I was excited about it because I always felt like BMW needs an entry-level crossover electric that's not an iX because that's really expensive. And I just wish, it would have been sold in the US. Apparently, it's not sold now in the US. Who knows if that will change in the future? It's possible. I mean, it's a 7-year cycle, so they can always change their mind, and I really hope they will change their mind because coming from the i3, I would definitely replace the i3 with the iX1 tomorrow. I don't even care that much about the range. I mean, they're talking 438 kilometers WLTP in Europe. Of course, the EPA will be a lot lower, so I don't know, maybe 200 something. But honestly,
it's better than the i3.
I mean, honestly, even if it was like the i3 range, I would still buy it because it's a lot more practical. It's really good looking. It's got all the new tech. I'd still like the i3 because it's also practical and it's fun to drive. But it's just a newer product, and it's a lot larger when it comes to interior space. So
Well, something you said, like when we were discussing this, as soon as they revealed it, it was like you were saying that it's disappointing that it's not coming here because it's literally the perfect i3 replacement. It fixes every one of the issues customers had with the i3.
Yeah.
More range, more space, more traditional looks. I mean, it's everything the i3 wasn't.
Mm-hmm. And probably price would have been kind of the same. Yeah. Price would have been the same because they're selling it for 55,000 euros in Germany, and usually US price is a little bit cheaper than that. So I would say probably been the upper 40s, maybe low 50s. So that would be i3 price basically. I mean, that'll be that. Of course, it'll be more expensive than maybe
your tax rebates and all that. It drops the price more, but
exactly. And interior, it's really high tech for a car in that segment. I mean, it's. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that bothers me still a little bit is the lack of a physical iDrive knob. So you have to really use touch screen and voice commands. Yeah. But I guess I can live with that. I mean, if that would be the worst thing about the iX1, I will definitely take it. But even the other cars, I mean, the regular 30e, the plug-in hybrid, makes over 300 horsepower too, so that should be a lot of fun to drive. And then of course, they're going to have an X1 M35i based on the spy photos that we've seen with quad pipes and all of that, which is an interesting choice. But I'm assuming that will be probably the most powerful one and fun to drive. So, so X1, I think they nailed it. I feel like there should be no problem selling this one. I didn't see a lot of negative comments on it. And the current generation X1, it's always been really successful, honestly. So,
I
like it. Yeah, 3 Series was in the other room kind of there, so I kind of stopped by to kind of see it. It took me a little bit of time to kind of figure out what the changes were, but clearly the headlights, once you turn them on, you see that they've changed quite a bit of headlights. They've also modified the bumper in the front, so there is a smaller gap in between the kidneys and the lower air intake. So it just looks a lot cleaner, honestly. I saw some people didn't like that, but I actually like it. It looks a lot cleaner that way. And it's just going to be interesting to see what the front plate will look like because there is not a gap there, so that's what usually ends up. So that's another story. But
you're gonna start doing what California's doing, where you can like vinyl on the wrap on the front license plates.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Isn't that California doing that?
Is it? I have no idea actually.
I thought it was California. They passed a law where you can like have
Yeah.
a front license plate wrap
Huh.
put on the front of your car, so you don't have to like
Oh, that's cool.
drill stuff into the front of your
I
car.
didn't know that. So that was the 3
Yeah.
Series interior. Yeah, the interior has changed, so it's really it's got the same as we expected. Like the i4 and iX, the big screen. So nothing new there. But other than that, it looks pretty much the same. I think they're offering a lot more options when it comes to Sensatech, which was an interesting thing that I just found out. Apparently,
When it comes to
Sensatech.
what was that?
So
The fake leather.
yeah,
Sensatech?
yeah.
Leather.
Yeah. So basically, it's really popular in the U.S., which if you'd have told me that, I would have said not really, because leather seems to be the first choice here. But apparently, a lot of people have ordered the 3 Series with Sensatech in the last few years. So now they're offering us Sensatech in a lot more color options.
Animal free, right?
Yep.
So
And also they're offering with like perforated seats, basically. So I don't think the current generation has perforated Sensatech.
it makes sense actually, because U.S. is going very well. You have a lot of states trying to go very green
Yeah,
and very
true.
vegan. People are trying to go animal free.
Yeah.
So.
And then the other thing that was interesting, the interesting fact was that they're removing the laser light option for the 3 Series, because I guess the take rate was quite low. Nobody was really buying it. But to people that really like the, because there was somebody in the comment section saying, hey, but I really like that blue accent that comes with the laser light. So I guess BMW, heard that too, because they're offering the adaptive LED lights with those little blue accents at the bottom, basically. So you do get that.
Fickle bunch.
Exactly, yeah. So
That bums me out.
I never really
'cause
thought about
traditionally
that.
Speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But that bums me out because that's really cool tech, and we're losing it just because the uptake is not.
But I also don't think that we got the
Although-
full laser lights, right, Nico? We got kind of like a
I don't
US
know.
version of it.
I got
Yep.
very confused with that because there was different versions of it, and like regulatory issues, and it kind of confused me.
Yep, that's true. We got a lamer version of that, but it sounds like headlight regulations in the U.S. are being revised. So
Okay.
I think moving forward in the future, we'll get what everyone else in the world is getting, which is kind of nice. But
Yeah.
Step out of the
Dark
headlight-
Ages,
Dark Ages. Yeah.
that's a pun right there.
All right, so the last piece that I can just tease because I can't really talk much about it, it's definitely under the embargo. It's the M2. I drove the new M2 on the Salzburg ring, never been there. Quite technical track, rainy day too, so that was interesting. Drove in 2 transmission configurations, so you figure that out. I mean, basically, I think we wrote about it anyway. It's not a big
CVT?
surprise. Exactly. So the review goes live on June 15th, so we can tease that. It will be a video review. I'll have a print review as well, but I think people will be happy with my thoughts.
Mark your calendar, June 15th,
June
people.
15th,
Mark your
yeah.
calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Go on YouTube right now and click the little notification bell.
really the ultimate M car today to me. Might not be to other people. They might still like the M3 and M4, but to me the M2, it's like the perfect M car. That's the car that I would buy in every generation, honestly.
I was going to ask you a question about it, but clearly you can't answer it.
Can't really say much, honestly, because they were very strict about first time on an event where you can even share like spy photos of the car, because the car was camouflaged, so we couldn't really see it, but we couldn't really post. I mean, it's pretty funny, and the M guys would probably laugh about this, but I even said, I took a photo of the roof, basically, because he had a nice cam on it with the 50-year logo on it, and it looked really cool. And it's literally like, if you look at the photo, you can't even tell what car it is. Like, you can't. It's like just a logo, really. Like, it could be any BMW. And they said, nope, can't post it. I'm like, come on. I'm like, this is such a cool photo. Like, this is just really building the hype, And they said nope. So it was, they were really strict about sharing anything from there. I did manage to squeeze out a front rondelle shot. They only showed the rondelle, no kidneys, no anything. But I do have some cool videos that I did there. So there will be some interesting ones coming out. Nico, you can take over with your test drive.
Well, I've had a very boring past couple months, I guess. Very few test drives, very few events, but the one thing that I did drive that I think is pretty interesting is the i4 M50, which I was very excited to drive. because I loved the iX. I really enjoyed that, and the people told me the i4 was better. Everyone was like, "You're gonna love the i4 more than the iX," and I have a review coming soon. I'm working on it right now and editing the pictures right now. But to kind of spoil it a little bit, I didn't love it as much as the iX, ironically. But it's very fast, it's very interesting, and it's kind of boring actually at the same time. So I don't want to spoil too much about it because the review's coming. But it's a weird car because it is like, it's very impressive in what it can do, but at the same time, it's also feels a little bit like a missed opportunity in some ways. And I think I'm the only person to say that because everyone seems to be impressed by it. I think I like the iX more. I think it was more of an impressive car, and I think a lot of that has to do with the chassis. I mean, I'm excited to talk about it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil everything here, but it was definitely a car that there was a lot about it I liked, and some that I didn't like so much. I think it's this weird oddball, I think, of a car because, especially with its price, I think it's priced really well. It's cheaper than an M3 competition, and it's almost as fast, and it's all electric. Like, that's pretty cool, and it's more practical because it has the hatchback trunk. So I think that's a very cool proposition. It's a great value proposition, I think, if you're looking at performance sedans in that space. You look at the M3 competition, which is a brilliant car, but then the i4 is like just as fast. Has the super high-tech powertrain. It's more practical. It looks a little bit different. I think mostly it looks better, to be honest with you. Just chop the front off. I don't like either of them, but the rest of it, I think the i4 M50 looks better than the M3 because just the silhouette of it is cooler, and it's interesting in that way. But then again, it's really not that exciting to drive. So like the M3 is like thrilling and it's incredible to drive, and it's memorable. The i4 M50, it doesn't feel any different than the M440i Grand Coupe, just that it's all electric and faster. Like the powertrain feels different, but the body, like the chassis and the suspension and the steering don't really feel all that different. It just feels heavy, to be honest. It feels heavier because it is heavy. It's like, what is it, like, over 5,000 pounds or something? Like, it's really heavy. And you can tell that when you push it hard, you can feel like this thing weighs as much as an SUV. It's just like it. I mean, yeah, all the weight's low down, so it's has a great center of gravity and it doesn't pitch and roll. But it's just you can only fight physics so much. So when you push it hard, it's like, okay, this thing doesn't want to play that hard. It just doesn't like it. It just feels too cumbersome. But
it's an electric car, though.
Powertrain. Yeah, I mean it is, but it just doesn't. It doesn't feel like the performance car that I think it markets itself as. There's like 1,000 M badges all over it, but it just doesn't feel like that. And then another thing that kind of I noticed is that and there's no getting around this. It's just, it is what it is. It doesn't feel like the iX felt special, like this from the ground up EV, radical new thinking. Like, it felt really special. The i4 doesn't feel special, and I know they're two different things, and the i4 is based on a 4 Series, so it can't do that. But like, prior to driving it, everyone told me you're gonna like the i4 more, and I just didn't. I thought I think the iX feels like it feels as special as the i3 did back in 2014. Like, it feels like this is a new way of thinking for BMW, and this is a new way.
Well, it's funny you say that because I struggled with that initially too when I drove the cars back to back, and over the last few months I've had a conversation with people looking into electric cars, and they were asking about the i4 and then the iX and all of that. And I even talked to a couple of dealers, and I mean, one, like, first point, they're sold out for like a very long time. You can even get one till like 2023. In
which one, both? Or?
The i4 M50 and then the iX2. I mean, they're really sold out for like at least 6 months for each model into 2023 now. And but the feedback that I heard, for some people, and when I explained to them the differences, and also what the dealers told me, was that people actually like the fact that it just looks like a BMW, and it's like a BMW. Like to them, it's like They don't want something different like we do, like a bespoke iX, which is different. They're like, oh, we just want a BMW that's electric. So the way that they come to the dealer, they don't say we want, we're thinking about the i4 and iX. No, they said we want an electric, 3 Series basically, or a 4 Series, and that's kind of how they shop right now. Of course, that might change in the future, but apparently those first units being sold, they're sold to people that really just want an electric BMW, like people that maybe don't want to drive the Tesla, and then they say, well, we want to drive an electric BMW. What do you have? And they don't have that many options. Clearly, we only have 2 now, right? So they are going for the i4 M50 that way, and they like the fact that it just looks inside and it's all like BMW. It's familiar, so it's interesting because I would pick the iX if just because it's unique inside and it's got a lot more space and it's bespoke. But then I'll probably end up buying someday the i4 because it's a lot cheaper. So if I shop by price, I'll pick the i4 not because I like it more than the iX, just because it's a lot cheaper.
Right. Well, and I mentioned in my review that in my video review at least, that if that's what you're looking for, if like you're not looking for something that feels radically different, then the i4 is a really good choice, because it is objectively a very good car.
Yeah.
It's smooth, it's fast, it has a good interior, same as basically every other BMW right now, on the inside. It's practical. It is a good car. It just like it is expensive, right? So it's $65,000. It starts to get expensive. So if you're looking at like an electric 3 Series, the i4 M50 does get quite pricey. And you could say, well, then the i4 40 is there, which is much cheaper, and that's no argument from me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the 40 would be my choice also if I would buy it, because I don't need that much power from the 50. I don't need the M badges. I can buy a sport package on the 40, and you put some winter tires on it, and you solve the problem with the single rear motor. So that shouldn't be an issue.
It's still gonna be heavy too. So even with rear wheel drive and winter tires, you'll dig into the snow pretty hard.
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, I drove the i4 M50 quite a bit actually now, and like then again, I feel like it's just an electric BMW. I guess the true M cars we will see towards the end of the decade. I think this is just them playing a little bit with the current platform and trying to improve it a little bit. But honestly, there is not much I feel like they can do anyway with the iX M60 or with the iX or with the i4 M50. It's just for people that want a more expensive car and more power.
To be honest with you, though, I think I would get an i4 M50 over a Tesla Model 3 Performance, only because I think it's better at being a car, right? Like it does all the car things you want it to do, while also being stupid fast and better dealer network and all that stuff. So I think it's a great electric option, but for someone looking at that M badge, I think it might be disappointing.
Yeah,
however, without driving the i440,
driven,
full disclosure, I haven't driven it. I think just on paper, it's going to be the better choice, just because, like you said, you don't really need that much more power. It's still going to feel quick because it's electric, and it's going to be lighter on the front end, so it's going to probably have better steering. It's going to be rear-wheel drive, so it's going to feel better balanced, and it's going to be cheaper. So I think that's going to be a really good, interesting car. I can't wait to drive that, actually. Yeah. Also, just a brief note on the new class, or the Neue Klasse chassis that's coming out, the electric architecture. BMW needs to get their story straight with that, because outside of us talking to other journalists and commenters and stuff, no one has any idea what it's going to be. If it's going to be all electric, or it's going to be flexible, or what kind of cars it's going to be built on. Like, we're the only ones that get it. Everyone seems very confused, and I feel like that's going to cause confusion among customers.
But I feel like only
it's definitely a problem.
Yeah, but also I feel like only the electric enthusiasts really care about the platform. Like, I honestly don't see a lot of BMW customers even thinking about, is it a platform that's flexible, or is it dedicated, or
that's probably true.
They don't care. And they're gonna. I mean, the top 3 questions all the time for electric cars are really the range, the charging, and then what will be the third? Actually, those are the 2 ones, not even 3. Performance, maybe, yeah. But I would say,
I make YouTube videos like Tesla?
But really, when people ask me, about my electric car, they say, okay, what's the range and where can I charge it and how long does it take? Really, then they ask me about me. Okay, do you have enough space? Can you do that? But really, they say, what's the range? And how do I charge it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, and then I try to be smart and say, well, by the way, this is made out of carbon fiber, it doesn't rust, and it's really, you only see supercars built like this. And they're like looking at me like I don't care. I only keep the car 2-3 years. I don't need to worry about rust, and I don't need to worry about lightweight and all of that. So honestly, it's us really that we're
nerd stuff. People don't care about nerd stuff.
Really is nerd stuff. I mean,
what?
Let's also get to Tom Maloney also. I mean, he's like, Tom is such an expert when it comes to EVs and especially to like charging. But I feel like, there are very few people that care about that, charging speeds and, 0 to 80. And they're like, that's why BMW even changed their communication style right now. So they say, well, if you charge 10 minutes, you're going to get 150 kilometers. So they're not saying like anymore 10% or 20%. They're saying kilometers or miles, which is smart, because you want to tell people if you charge for 10 minutes anywhere at fast charging, then you get this much range.
Also, the terminology right now is confusing because you rate your battery in kilowatt hours, you rate your charge speed in kilowatts, there's miles per kilowatt hour. There's a lot of like confusing terms, and I feel like I was having this conversation with someone the other day who doesn't know anything about this sort of stuff, and they were like asking me questions, and I'm kind of trying to explain it, and they're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So
tell me the range.
Yeah, like that's it is a smart way to do it. Minutes, like time, and miles is an easy way to kind of get customers into this. 10 minutes gets you 100 miles of charge or whatever.
Exactly.
So I think you're right. That is smart.
Yeah. So and also when people ask me, so I mean, this question comes up a lot more now than before. Friends ask me, should I buy a Tesla or a BMW i4? And I'm like, tough question, right? I mean, and I always say, Tesla has the better charging infrastructure. Clearly, there is no doubt about it. So if you don't want to worry too much about charging, if charging it's important to you because you don't have a charger at home, then I would say Tesla might be the best choice for you. But if you care about more like we talked about it so many times, but if you care about the build and the premium, and the badge and all of that, then you buy the BMW i4 hands down, no questions asked. So it's really the main advantage the Model 3 still has is the charging infrastructure today, basically.
And you can digitally put whoopee cushions on people's seats.
Yes.
Beauty.
I think to end on this with the electric cars and BMWs and all of that is really that somebody asked, and I think I asked him also, but it was more in a official setting versus me talking to Frank Van Miel, off the record. But someone asked in that panel at Villa d'Este, how are the M electric of the future going to differentiate themselves from other cars, basically? And I guess that's the more interesting topic is how do you make sure that future M cars and sports cars really have a unique character? Because like you said, the i4 M50 does a lot of things well as a car. It clicks, it ticks all the right boxes, but then again, it's not overly exciting as a sports car, right? So how do you make sure that future, not just BMWs, but you can name any other major brand, how they're going to make sure that this true sports car like the 911s and the AMGs and all that will be extremely exciting with an electric drivetrain. So to me, that's the more interesting topic to follow in the future.
So just real quick before we end this, I have one more thing I forgot to mention about the i4, and you just reminded me of it. One thing that BMW does that differentiates the i4, at least the M50, from every other electric car, and it's one that I think is a killer. It's the best thing they've done in years, is the Hans Zimmer sounds. It is awesome. It is completely stupid and childish and absurd. It is amazing, though. It sounds like you're flying a spaceship. It is awesome. It's louder, much louder than I thought it was. Like, you really, really hear it. You hear it on deceleration too. So if you're in like regen, you start to regen and whoa, it slows down. Like, it's so cool. It's like being in Star Wars. It's amazing. It's so dumb and silly and childish, but it's the best thing BMW's done in a long time. I loved it so much. I felt like a little idiot. I put my kid in the back. He thought it was like the coolest thing he's ever seen in a car. So like that sort of childlike, fun that BMW injected into that with something so like, I mean, it's probably not simple. It's probably incredibly complicated to make, but something so simple as, you know, just making it sound interesting really actually amped up the fun factor of the car. And I liked it so much. Like, it's so cool that it makes the fake speaker noise that comes out of like internal combustion cars sound ridiculous, because it's like, that's fake trying to be real. This is fake trying to be absurdly fake. And it's so much better. Like, it's so cool. I love that so much.
It's fascinating because I really think that this is an untapped sort of sector that we haven't truly quite like wrapped our heads around, but like this will be and is currently like a very important area tied to electric vehicles moving forward, like the sound, because it's again not something that we ever really thought about, because we knew that combustion engines would make noise. They just naturally make noise. In this new world that is electric powered, there's going to be entire fields, right? Entire like college courses that will like cater to teaching people how to do proper electric noises.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like there's no limit either. Do whatever you want, right?
Yeah,
Well,
and I feel like,
cushion, so.
and I feel like they're gonna be offering like sound packs like in the future. That's what they're doing, the over-the-air updates, and I feel like they're gonna be like maybe anniversary sound packs they're gonna offer. Maybe you can subscribe to get more sounds. I mean, it's an interesting one. If you pay subscription like every month to get access to a library of different sounds, that could be interesting. I mean, you know, especially like you said, kids might love that.
Yeah, the Lucasfilms pack.
Yeah,
Literally what I was
TIE
just
Fighter,
thinking.
right?
Yeah.
Like they could partner with, you know, other brands, and
yeah, I mean,
you know,
you can really do a lot of interesting things. But there's some people that just say, well, it's silly, I just want to disable it. And of course you have the option to disable it too.
you
so,
can. That's the beauty of it. You can disable it if you don't like it. I love it.
I'm imagining
awesome.
the Jetsons, like the Jetsons. Beep, 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 beep. I want that. That's what I want when I accelerate.
Yeah, or whoopee cushions.
Or whoopee cushions, always. You never go wrong with whoopee cushions,
right?
There is
Make
a thing for everyone, you know. There's always something for everyone. So anyway, so that's kind of all I had. I think
I'm tapped out.
I guess for next time we can tease what we're gonna talk next time. Hopefully it's not gonna be another month, so we'll try to do it quicker. But I guess I still have to talk about the iX Flow that I saw, which was the color changing iX. Had a chance to see it in real life finally. Yes, I can talk about the i7 a lot more because I spend a lot more time with the car now, so I definitely have a lot of experience with the tech, especially. I feel like I'm a product genius right now when it comes to the i7.
So how are you at dealerships?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. And I'll share the M2, of course. I'll share the M2 review as well. I think by that time I should be able to talk about it, so that will be a very interesting one. And I guess Nico's got a 230i coupe. That's one that we definitely want to talk about in the next episode, because it's a car that I liked quite a bit actually when I drove it. I
like a lot. Yeah,
so we can talk about that. And then I guess James will have some other topics for us. Maybe he shares with us some new things about his M3 CS. You know, it's quite a popular car in the internet world.
Maybe, possibly, probably. Let's hope so. Even though that M4 CSL kind of stole my heart a little bit, but I'm working real hard to.
Well, your M3 CS looks a lot better, so.
You can see the M4 CSL.
You say
I don't
that,
hate the CSL, but it still has that grille. M3 CS is.
You guys can drive to New Jersey. It's actually at the headquarters. It's going to be there for a while. Might be a long drive for you, James, but
it's up in the lobby in Wycliffe Lake.
Yeah, it's gonna stay there for a little bit before he goes on to another show probably. But it's there if you want to say it.
Heckle it.
Yeah, if you really
it's gonna be a little
see
hard for me, so you're gonna have to fly me out there. You can't just like waltz into New Jersey.
You can just take a
the
road
other
trip.
end of the country.
Take a road trip from Seattle.
Yeah.
With the M3 CS, that'll be the perfect road trip.
Road trip to New Jersey, something no one has ever planned.
If I were to do that, that would turn into a video on if it's in and of itself, just like M3 CS cross US road trip
to meet its older, newer, successor.
To see its replacement,
or replacement or older brother. Yeah. Cool. All right. So thanks, guys, for the quick chat. I guess we'll be back in a week or two with a lot more things. As always, thanks for watching. You'll find us on all the podcast channels, I guess Spotify and Apple Music and everything else, and of course on our YouTube channel. You can also follow James on his channel, James Backage. We're gonna leave that in the description there. He's got a lot of interesting, things on there too. So always fun having you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining.
having us.
We'll see you soon.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.